Hey everybody, Jillian here for Illustrated Faith's Print and Pray Shop, and I've got a brand new Bible journaling process video. And today I'm using Mandy Ford's new print and pray set called Hold On to Today. So I'm going to be journaling in Romans 12 in my interleaved Bible. I'm going to need all of this space today because I want to use as many of Mandy's patterned papers as I can. And so these are the patterned papers that I'm going to be cutting up today for my project. So I'm going to cut about 2 by 2 squares, and I'll go ahead and start doing that now with my paper trimmer. So I ended up switching things out, and instead of cutting 2-inch squares, I sized it down a bit to 1.5-inch squares, considering the scale of the Bible that I'm creating in, instead of on a 9 by 12 or even 12 by 12 scrapbook canvas, which is what I would normally do. I am using my paper trimmer to just cut these squares out. If you had a ruler and a pencil, you could very easily just mark 1.5 inches and then cut them by hand. I have plenty of patterned paper left over to use for future projects. And then what I'm going to do is just take a couple squares, line them up, and then cut corner to corner with a pair of scissors so that I have triangles now. Using the triangles allows me to incorporate more pattern on the page and then also create a little bit of movement, which you'll see here in a minute. So I'm trying to keep things super organized into nice and neat piles, and then I'm going to do, my original plan was to do 2 rows of squares on the back side of this other entry that I have in Romans 12. And then I have to contend with this green tab from the entry on the back. So I'll figure out later on in the video how to incorporate that. So here I am putting 2 rows of squares down and realizing, wow, this takes up a lot of space and I'm not going to have room for much else if I stick to that plan. So instead, I'll just put 1 row of triangle squares down the page, and then you can see I'm just rotating their orientation, so there's like a little bit of movement down the page. Still trying to make 2 rows work here, but it's just not going to happen. So instead, I will scooch those over to the left and then grab this really fun Lauren washi tape from the shop. It's a great neutral, a black dot washi. So I'm going to rip off a large piece of this and then tear that in half and then put it down the page vertically. And so this is going to frame my paper triangles. I let it hang off the edge a little bit, and then you could just trim or rip that off. And then I'll start putting my paper triangles down. So I'm using the Illustrated Faith tape runner here. And then I decided last minute to use the edge of my scissors to scuff the paper up a little bit. If you had a sewing machine, this would be really fun to do, to sew all of the squares together. That would just like create just a really cool texture. I don't have a sewing machine and I don't know how to sew, so I'm doing this in order to put some fun texture on the page. And again, just rotating the orientation of the triangles down the page. I started off by letting them hang over the edge just to be sure that I had enough room to accommodate all of them. And so I'll put some washi tape on the other side of the paper now that I know where it's going to live, just the same way as I had done before. And then trimming off that excess paper that's hanging over the top. There we go. So I'm going to move on to the next step of my background. I'm using a really small brush and some of the Illustrated Faith watercolors to put some black paint splatters in the background on my page. Typically I would do this as a finishing touch, but I knew that I wanted to incorporate it since I have so much white space on here, and wanted to just kind of sandwich it in between all of the layers of paper so that it wasn't going to be sitting on top of the extra elements that I'm going to add at the end. So I'll let that dry, and then I'm going to cut out some additional pieces. So I knew I wanted to use these really fun hands that Mandy included in her set, and kind of had an idea to sandwich 2 of them together to create some hidden journaling. So using that same washi tape as a hinge, I'm going to put these 2 together on my page so that I could flip it over and then include some journaling on the back of the one hand. So to do that, I put the first hand down where I wanted it, leaving some space on the left side so that I could peel that up. I'm putting adhesive on top of the washi tape here and then placing it so that when it folds over it will sit nicely on top of the other hand, and pressing that down so the adhesive grabs all of those layers. There was a little bit of washi tape that was visible from the left side, which was fine. It's a really great neutral washi, but I really didn't want to see that extra part of the hinge, so I trimmed it off. Next, I am using the Pepper Alpha stickers from the Rooted devotional kit with some other stickers that I had in my stash to spell out my title, which is going to say Hold On to Hope. I'm journaling in Romans 12 here. Mandy points us to verse 12, but I ended up reading the whole section of verse 9 to 21, which in my Bible is labeled Marks of the True Christian. So, like, this is what genuine faith looks like in action, right? Next, I decided to use Mandy's floral paper to punch a tab out of and then cover this green tab. I, again, have another piece of Wordfetti from the Rooted devotional kit that I'll use to label my tab, and then I added some more washi and a date stamp. And then, because I'm journaling away from the passage that I'm referring to, I ended up cutting out the reference that Mandy included in her set just to note that that's what I was referring to. And then I'm just writing down some takeaways from this passage here on the back side of the hand. And that is going to do it. I love how bright and fun and colorful Mandy's set Hold On To Today is, and it is available in the Print and Pray shop. We've got it linked down in the video description below if you guys want to check it out. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you soon.